Hello, this is Mary Jo Fox, and I'd like to share with you some updated information about the Rigby and QRI assessments. You might wonder why make these changes. Well, last year, so the 2014-15 school year, we received feedback from the classroom teachers on the MTSS team that students were very familiar with some of the QRI passages. In doing a data analysis of that QRI usage, we found exactly what the teachers were sharing with us, that some of our kindergarten or first grade students, especially those high flyers, were going and utilizing and reading those QRI passages multiple times. So by the time they got to the Kansas reading assessment in second grade, they were very familiar. So our purpose for the changes are for these assessments to provide the most accurate information possible. What are these changes? Well, we will be having a very limited use of QRIs in first grade. We will only be using it mid-year and end of year. We will no longer be using QRI Form B in first grade. The first time students will see that will be in second grade for the Kansas Reading Assessment. In this screencast, we've also identified a threshold as to where to stop testing. Also included is information on how to communicate with parents about the student's reading level. Just for your information, beginning in the 2015-16 school year, QRIs will not be administered in kindergarten. All of the information that I'm going to be sharing in this screencast can be found in the district guidelines packet that you received on August 7th. The protocol for administering the Rigby and QRI assessments stay the same. What I'm going to do, though, is to go and review those guidelines. First thing you'll do is read that one-sentence introduction to students that you find at the top of the marking sheet. You'll also want to remind students that you're going to be asking them comprehension questions after the passage is read. Use the district coding conventions, the same ones we have always used with a check mark, to go and record the students' reading behaviors. You're also going to go and use a timer to record the number of minutes and seconds it took a student to read the passage. So once they get started, you're going to start your timer, and then you're going to record that time on the recording sheet. The fluency expectations, the amount of time it should take the student to read the Rigby and QRIs, can be found on page 5. Those two remain the same as we've had in the past. You'll find the Rigby number of minutes for both books and for each level. You'll find for QRIs for Form C, which you'll be using at mid-year for students who read at a Rigby 16 or above, on page 5, along with the QRI Form A, which you'll be using at end of year for those students who read at a Rigby 16 or above. As we've always done in the past, you need to remain silent while the student is reading. There's no prompting. If the student's stuck on a word, you just encourage them to give it a try or to skip it if it appears that they're unable to figure it out. If the student reads the same word incorrectly more than 2 times, we only count the first 2 as errors. If the student reads a name incorrectly, we don't count it as an error. If a student skips a line of text or a page of text when reading, we don't intervene. We let the student continue reading, and we don't show them the place. We count it as 1 error for every line skipped or every page skipped. Now, in Rigby only, you probably have noticed that there are some passages, really some books, where the book is longer than what is on the running record sheet. Wherever the running record ends, that's where you should ask the student to stop. The comprehension questions are just on the parts that the student has read up to that point. Students, after they're done, you're done asking the questions, you can have the students go back and look at the remaining pages so they can get an idea of what happened in the story. But you don't go and read it to them. There is no strategy talk after reading the books in either QRIs or in Rigby. After the student has finished reading the passage, you'll say to the student, "Are you ready for the questions?" If the student's response is yes, you remove the text and you begin asking the questions. If the student response is no, you can allow the student to reread the passage. You can't prompt them to tell you no, but if they do say no and they say that they would like to read it again, then you can let them read it again. When the reading is completed, you remove the text. The students must respond to the questions without looking back at the text. When asking the comprehension questions, you need to read the questions exactly as it's stated on the sheet. You may repeat a question, but you can't clarify or paraphrase it, even for those ELL students. If the student's response is not one of the answers given, record what the student said. If the student provides a partially correct answer, it's appropriate to say, "Can you tell me more?" And then you write TMM, tell me more, next to their response. This should only be used when warranted and not to lead the student to a correct response. When you're going to score, refer to the passage to see if the response is substantiated with the information from the text if it's not the exact answer that's written on the answer sheet. There should be no strategy talk or discussion of comprehension errors after the questions have been given. On Rigby levels 12 and up, you continue with the next book if the student scores 90% or above on word accuracy and 75% or above on comprehension and was within the time allotment, or they've reached that threshold for that grade level, and I'll be talking about that more. For mid-year and end-of-year in first grade, if the student passes a level 16, then you'll administer the QRI 1 passage. If the student passes the QRI 1 passage, then you'll continue with QRI 2. If the student doesn't pass the QRI 1, then you return to Rigby level 17 and you continue testing until the student reaches the frustration level. For Rigby levels 1 through 11, you're going to administer those comprehension questions, but that's not going to hold you back if the student doesn't reach that 75% for comprehension. You're going to continue testing with the next level until the student's accuracy is below 90% or comprehension is below 75% or they exceed the time limit, or that the student reaches that threshold identified for first grade. The student's reading level is the highest level that was 90% or above for accuracy, 75% or above for comprehension, and within the time allotment. Identify the accuracy, comprehension, and time for reading on the text. You are going to record that on the recording sheet for each passage. Now that new threshold for where to stop. For the beginning of the year, you will not be going beyond Rigby level 21. At mid-year, you're not going to go beyond Form C QRI 3. Third quarter, you're not going to be going beyond Rigby level 21. And end of year, you're not going to go beyond Form A QRI 3. You might ask why. Well, as we have moved to our new standards where the focus is really that deeper comprehension, we believe that by reaching that level 21 or QRI 3, we know that the student is reading substantially above grade level, and that we know that we will be having them involved in using those high-achieving reader materials or having them reading some of the complex picture books or informational books. And what we're going to be doing is really going deeper with that comprehension versus trying to move the students up the levels. When we're recording the student's instructional level, we're going to record the highest passing level that they scored. And the passing criteria, again, is 90% or above for word accuracy, 75% or above on comprehension, and that is for all the QRIs assessments and for level 12 and up for Rigby, and within the time allotment for the passage. When you're recording the student's instructional level, it becomes that question, what do I do for the students who have reached that threshold? What you're going to be recording for students passing that Rigby level 21 for beginning of the year or the first quarter, you're going to record at or above Rigby level 21. At mid-year, you're going to record for students that pass that QRI through, you're going to record at or above QRI 3. For third quarter and the students that are passing that Rigby level 21, you'll record at or above Rigby 21. And end of year, again, that same pattern. For those students passing that QRI 3, you'll record at or above QRI 3. The grade level changes for the grade level expectations for first grade have not changed. At the beginning of the year, a student is considered below grade level if they're reading a Rigby 3 or below. They're considered on grade level if they're reading Rigby 4. They're considered above grade level if they're reading 5 or above. At the end of first quarter, a student is considered below grade level if they're reading Rigby 6 or below, on grade level if they're reading Rigby 7, above grade level if they're reading Rigby 8 or above. At mid-year, a student is considered below grade level if they're reading Rigby 11 or below, on grade level if they're reading Rigby 12. They're considered above grade level if they're reading Rigby 13 or above, or QRI 1 or above. At the end of third quarter, a student is considered below grade level if they're reading Rigby level 15 or below. They're considered on grade level if they're reading a Rigby 16. They're considered above grade level if they're reading Rigby 17 or above. At end of year, they're considered below grade level if they're reading Rigby 16 or below, on grade level if they're reading QRI 1, above grade level if they're reading QRI 2 or above. Now the tricky part, and something new, that communication with parents. What we are asking is for when you are communicating with parents, either in writing or verbally, not to share the actual Rigby benchmark level or the QRI reading level. We're asking you to just identify for parents if their child is reading on, above, or below the grade level expectations. If the parent wants more information, show them a copy of the text that's considered on grade level. As we are getting started with this year, I know we're going to have many parents who have had children that have been in first grade in previous years when the teachers have been sharing those levels, and that it's something that parents want. If you have a parent who is adamant about getting the student's reading level, please refer them to your principal, and your principal can communicate this to them and can explain really that the information of on, above, or below will be enough for them to meet their student's need and to see that we are meeting their child's need. Any questions? If so, please feel free to visit with your building IRT or your first grade IRTs, Jenna Cooter and Deb or Hannah. Always, though, please feel free to give me a call or shoot me an email. I want to support you with anything that you need with this. So, thank you very much.